And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasmagorium show. My name is Steve Foley. I'm joined today by Catherine. Hi, Kat.
Hey, Steve?
Today, we're going to do a spoilery discussion. That never comes off the tongue, at least not mine very well. Non-spoiler discussion of Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. I was lucky enough to see it this morning. I think, Kat, you saw it last night. Yeah, and man, what a fun ride that was. It really was a fun ride for me. So we'll get into it. This probably won't be an extended, like it said, it's going to be a non-spoiler discussion. Probably won't go too long, but we'll give our thoughts on the movie, and Kat and I will go back and forth about kind of what we think of not only the movie but the trilogy as a whole. Maybe touch on where we think it might go in the future, and then we'll come back maybe over the weekend, maybe first part of next week, and do a spoilery discussion where we can really get into the meat of the film itself. Anyways, if that sounds good, Kat, let's jump right in. What did you think?
I thought it was really fun. I like how it there's no exposition at all. It just jumps right in and you're off to the races. And I love that. And it stayed that way, that type of level of suspense throughout the whole movie. I didn't feel that runtime at all. It just flew by.
Yeah, we were probably about halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way in, and I'm like, yeah, this is just not letting its foot off the gas at all. And about that time, I said, I really like this movie because you've been in the theater, I don't know, 2.5 hours at that point, and you're like, yeah, this is really going at a clip. It's it's just a blast from the word go, from the very beginning of the movie. You jump, like you said, you jump right in, and it just goes the whole time. A lot of cool things happen in the movie. A lot of laughs. I thought not like Marvel's been kind of cast in a light by certain people on the internet that the comedy for them in the last 4 or 5 films hasn't landed, especially with Taika Waititi's, the Thor movie, and even some of the Doctor Strange stuff and the Shang-Chi stuff. It just, the comedy and the comedy timing didn't land for them. It doesn't bother me. It didn't bother me as much as it does them. But this is like a return to the old, the comic timing and the comedy that we've kind of grown to love from the first 3 phases, if you want to stick them into phases of Marvel movies. And that return to form was very welcome over the last couple of movies that we kind of fell off, at least for me.
Yeah, it fits right in with the first 2 films. Seamless.
Yeah, right. So the laughs, lots of heart. I'd be lying if I didn't have a tear or 2 roll down my cheek with this movie. Not afraid to say it. Happens to me quite often. Not a lot in these kind of movies. So that was special. So lots of heart, lots of action. I mean, it's full of action. A lot more than I expected. I expected a lot more story. We got that, but it was packed full of action too, which was cool.
This feels like a full-blown action movie. Like, that's the genre he picked for this one. Whereas the second one is more of a kind of a meditative movie on family and family dynamics and legacy and all that kind of thing. Whereas the first one was kind of like the setup, like a throwback to classic Star Wars adventure, which is,
Right.
It's not much about heroes versus villains as it is about, bringing the ragtag group together sort of thing.
We do get a Star Wars line in this movie, by the way.
Yeah, but this one you're right, it's just action-driven type story from start to finish. I didn't think, however, I don't think it's dark at all. Like, a lot of critics were saying in advance of this movie, oh, it's super dark. It's the darkest Marvel movie. Oh, people are going to get triggered and all that. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, some stuff is implied and we know what's going on in the plot, but you never really get to see
anything. Do you think it's graphic. Just kind of it's the animal stuff that they're
well, that's the thing. It's like, on paper, yeah, that would be horrible, but you literally don't see any of it in the movie.
Right.
So it's just like, other than that shot in the trailer, which we could say because it was in the trailer, where you see Rocket like strapped to the thing, and then you see the reflection in his eye as a high evolutionary. Like, that's literally the only experimentation like bit graphic like that you see, other than one other scene which isn't really graphic because it's all CG and a little wonky, but other than that, it's like, yeah, the concept is when you think about what he's doing, but the thing is about a movie, as I've always said, if the plot of any horror film were happening to you in reality, it would be scary. But that's the thing. That's why horror movies are hard. You have to make the audience knows that, so you got to make it scary. And so for the most part, it didn't feel dark. Like even the High Evolutionary himself. Well, I get he's very much a narcissistic, totally zealous type sociopath who's just obsessed with his vision for everything and does really callous things. I never really felt the villainy from him. Like everybody's talking about, oh, he gets really under your skin and all this, but I didn't.
But he wasn't a mustache twirler. He wasn't like that.
No, he wasn't like that. He had a purpose and he had a driving force to what he was doing. I just didn't I didn't feel the villainy in the way I thought I would from the way other critics were talking it up. Because again, this movie, and maybe that's just because I've been desensitized to a lot of stuff. But I didn't feel like you see a lot of these shots in the trailer of the real cute little animals. Like if actually showed some of the stuff happening to that, then yeah, I'd probably hate him a lot more.
Right.
And yeah, on paper he's evil, but I didn't feel much there. And I kind of liked his character because he is totally in that zone of what his obsession the whole entire time. Like nothing really, like he gets angry a lot at other people, but he doesn't allow that to like stay on target, you know?
Yeah, right. So for the High Evolutionary, this character isn't. It is a character study on him. It's not completely fleshed out, but I found that we got enough of kind of his motivation. That's kind of the rub here, and kind of the knock on Marvel as their villains. I thought this villain was fine. It served the purpose well. And I didn't like you said, I didn't find him a mustache twirling villain, but he's a villain with a purpose. He thinks he's doing the right thing. Always, those are the types of villains I kind of gravitate towards anyways. The ones that don't view themselves as the villain, right? They view themselves as having a purpose and doing the right thing. Thanos was kind of like that. So as a character and his motivations, I thought that worked very well in the film.
Yeah, that worked very well. And admittedly, there's still like a lot of questions, like where does he come from? Sure. What exactly is he? Because like you see in the trailers, he's like, it's not so much a purple suit because you see it like even in the back of his head, like that, almost like that. It's like, is that a helmet that's coming up the back of his head? Is that him? It's like, so they do keep it a bit mysterious and like where's his resources are. But I like the idea of him just being perceived as like a god among all these. I think that was kind of a neat idea, and so that kind of. They did a good job with that. And I thought, the actor was definitely hamming it up because he said he was referring to things like Henry V and Shakespeare for the role, and you can feel that.
Yeah, no, very well acted. I thought the whole movie was well acted. There wasn't any one that stood out to me as kind of falling down on the job. So that was great. I liked it. You kind of pick up. I won't go too far into this, but you kind of pick up where the holiday special left off, which is kind of cool. It's one of my favorite holiday specials that we've had in many, many years. So that was cool. It's cool to see that. I don't know. I want to see it again because I don't know where I want to rank it within the three. I know it's. The first one has a place in my heart, right? And it's kind of hard to beat, but I really like this movie. Like I said, I'd probably have to see it again before I do a real ranking, but I really
and the character arcs I thought worked really well too. I mean, certain aspects of the finale felt forced, but I did like how it all kind of gels, and it's fun because after watching it and learning about Rocket and all of that, it kind of retroactively makes things from the previous films better or make more sense of it.
Right. It kind of makes it more a seamless trilogy. I think it's a really good kind of not only a good send off for this team of Guardians, but it really kind of caps off this trilogy in a great way that makes a through line. Now you kind of want to go back and watch them all in a row to see how that through line, manifest, because it's it's there. And I'm sure Gunn had this movie in mind when he was making the first two.
Oh yeah, And then they continue other plot lines, like from the second one with the Adam Warlock character, which I was kind of not that enthused with that in this movie. It's like basically played for dumb laughs, and I know maybe he'll get better down the line.
Yeah.
Closer to the one from the comics.
Yeah. Well, and I get that he's he's new out of the box, out of the pod, right? So he's essentially a kid, but it was what are they calling him? Himbo, I think. Kind of just kind of a dummy. But we won't go too far into that. But his character, look, I love Will Poulter. I think he's a great actor. And he acted exactly probably how he was directed to act this, and how that was written, which is fine. But yeah, hopefully down the road he gets to blossom into the Adam Warlock from the comics, because that'd be badass.
Yeah, that, and then I like how certain things played out, like with Drax. Like they toned down. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the dumb humor still there, but they managed to find a way to bring it around to who Drax was in the first movie and what that was about. And so that was, I thought, okay, they kind of made that solid.
Solid Drax, solid. We get a lot of good Nebula here. I thought Nebula was. I've always liked her character, anyways. But I feel like in this movie, she's starting to come around too. You get more kind of a more fleshed out version of what she is and who she's going to, be going forward.
Yeah.
They kind of do that with all the characters, or all our main characters. Yeah.
Gamora was kind of, I admit, a hell of a lot more aggressive than even in the first movie.
Yeah.
Wow, some of the stuff she's doing in here is like, okay, that's a bit much. But
right.
I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy about that arc for her whole arc. Anyway, I never really liked her.
It felt like they brought her back because James Gunn knew this was going to be his last Guardians movie, and so he wanted to put her in there because she didn't really fit. It's like, okay, we get it. We see from the trailers that she's with the Ravagers now, but okay, she's here. And they kept doing this weird thing with the dialogue where Peter says things like, "Oh, you don't remember who you are." I'm thinking, wait a minute. We know from Endgame that it's not that she doesn't remember, it's just she's literally not the same person. So why do you keep phrasing it that way? And it was just kind of weird. But yeah, I wasn't kind of thrilled with where that arc goes, but it's like, whatever.
That's kind of if there is a weak point in this movie, that's a glaring one for me. There's probably others that upon a second watching, and no movie's perfect, but or very rarely are they perfect. But that's one of the weaker points for me. And I've always loved the Gamora character. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, both she and Dave Bautista have said they don't want to play their characters anymore. And it's like, oh, okay. Kind of a shame because, like James Gunn has always stressed that it's not the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. He says it's the end of this iteration of the team. So you could feasibly see more of them down the line. And I think Gunn has certainly set the table well enough for people to use those 3 films as a blueprint for what would make a good Guardians film if they want to keep this franchise going.
Yeah.
I mean, they even found a way to bring it all around back to the opening scene of the first movie, which was good because I was waiting on that.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, you got abducted, and it seems like you had a big extended family there. It's like, what happened there? Are you averse to going back to Earth at all as your times as Star-Lord, or what? Because it's not like he was a toddler. I mean, he was old enough to remember. So, and they kind of tried to touch bases on that in the second film. But the way they also bring things around, like with Rocket, like why did he steal the batteries in part 2? Well, now we know why, and like what that was really all about. And so it's like, oh, okay, so he's not just some mischievous jackass who makes life harder for the team. It's like, oh, there's a better, good reason for this.
And that's kind of what I was touching on with that through line. I think, most people will get it, and most people probably guess what that is, but we won't go too far into that, except to say I want to, I kind of want to watch all these in a row. So I can't wait for another viewing in theaters because it was great in theaters. Especially, I try to watch every movie I can in XD with the big sound and the large screen. But I can't wait for it to come to Disney Plus so I can watch all 3 in a row.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 the night before and the night before seeing the third one, And it was a really nice through line for it, and a lot of great. The design again is really cool too for all the visuals that you get to see in this.
Oh, the visuals are great. Yeah, I mean, I've liked the visuals in all three movies. I know a lot of people didn't like two as much as one, and I agree. It's not as strong as the first one, but this one certainly is. This is going to fight for the top spot for me. It's going to be one or three. I did really like this movie.
I think it might be 2 or 3 for me, because the first one, it's like I really wasn't invested at all in the Ronin or Xandar story, because it's like, okay, you're a one-dimensional fanatic who says that, oh, my forefathers have been killed by the Xandarians, so I'm going to wipe out the entire race. Like, okay, whatever. And so I was kind of more invested in the team and all that type of stuff. But the second one, I thought, really did tie a lot of stuff in, especially with all of the arcs and stuff and the way they did that. But this third one is like really, like the first one, I think, has the most like fun story, because it's just good balance of action and story, pacing along kind of thing. Second one, again, is very meditative, very much philosophical, tying everything, all this type of stuff for their backstories and the arcs going in properly. Whereas the third one is just action, just
I mean,
and it's like he doesn't make it, like James Gunn doesn't fall for the third act trap by making it bigger for the sake of being bigger, because it's not that the movie, because it doesn't necessarily feel bigger. It's just that because he just jumps right into it, we're just off to the races and just going to keep that relentless suspense and pace up.
Right. But and intercut with these beautiful kind of backstories and so you don't lose the story,
right,
within all this great kind of action that's and it just goes. The pacing is great. I remember driving out of the movie theater and saying, man, Gunn's at the top of his game. The last two Gunn movies I think I saw with Suicide Squad and this one, or The Suicide Squad and this Guardians movie, and man, he's at the top of his game. I love both those movies. I think they're just phenomenally directed. And he's a great writer. He's always been great at writing. Always been a good director in my opinion. But I think he's at the top.
Which soundtrack was your favorite of the three?
Oh, right now it's 3. I love the soundtrack in this one. It might be the best. I mean, I'll have to go back and kind of make a list, but for right now, I love this soundtrack. I thought it was really awesome.
I think my favorite is still part 2 for the soundtrack.
Part 2 is really good. That one's hard to beat, and the first one's great. But what's great about this one is you get so there are 2 post-credit scenes. There's a mid-credit scene and then an end-credit scene. We won't tell you what it is, but stick around for both. But we do get a little harken back to the first one with a tune that will be very recognizable in the credits. So stick around for those. We do have Jill is here. Hey, Jill. She says, I'm getting ready. What do I need to remember the most from the first 2? Kat, I'll let you take that one.
The most, that's a good question.
Right.
Well, I feel maybe from the first 2, I guess perhaps the conflict that was going on with the Sovereign in part 2, and how that, because like I mentioned, the way after you see what's going on in this movie with that, it completely reframes that whole society and that whole subplot in Guardians 2, which is really interesting and would be fun to go back and watch it, when you get to see it back to back. And then, of course, keep the holiday special in mind, because this movie does not bother cluing you in as to why they're on Nowhere. There's no like catch up. It's like they're just here. It's like, oh, okay,
it goes. Yeah,
and same thing with the Peter and Mantis relationship. It's like, if you caught it if you saw the holiday special, great. If not, then you play catch up.
Yeah, definitely. I would say definitely, if you have a chance, watch the holiday special, and if you can, watch the first 2 movies. But definitely the second movie. I think the second movie, the holiday special, because there is a through line, but you can catch that through line where you don't have to necessarily watch the first one, so you can catch the through line through 2 and the holiday special. But there's several little threads there that kind of pick up and wrap up in this movie really nicely. They're really well done.
Yeah. Oh, and then the other new characters were good too, like Cosmo the dog.
Yeah, Cosmo's great.
Cosmo is,
You'll see from the holiday special. So he or
oh, that's
she.
right. She was in there. I forgot.
Yeah,
I like also that she like her dialogue is first in Russian and then it translates on the collar. It's cool.
Yeah,
and
cool.
there is a good running joke with that goes through, which is pretty fun. And
yeah,
Kraglin is
Blurb.
practicing
You'll see Blurb.
Yep, Blurb.
Which is pretty cool. And
some of the other Ravagers
from in one of the trailers. I'm not sure, but it's not a huge spoiler because I think everybody knew it was coming anyways.
Wait, who?
What?
What was that?
Blurb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a character. It's like, oh, there's that thing. It's like
you actually see James Gunn says you actually see the non-furry version in the first one. It's the one eating all the little other ones, but it doesn't have any fur. Ugly creatures.
Mm.
Jill says it's a good thing I saw the special. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was a great special too. By the way.
Oh, okay.
Jill, again, I'm going to the movies in a couple hours, so I don't have much time for rewatch. Oh, yep. Okay, well, but you did see the special, so I think you'll be pretty caught up. I think you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
But it is really good. Long movie.
Yeah.
Movie, you don't feel it at all. I didn't feel it at all.
It's not really that much longer than the other two. It's just, because the movie itself clocks in at 2:20 and then 10 minutes of credits. So, no, but the pacing is such that you don't really feel it. It just
it goes really it goes at a good.
The second one has like a lot of dialogue scenes and a lot of slowdown, a lot of talking, but then it has a really long climax because the climax starts at about like 90 minutes in, and then it just goes for like half hour's worth of action, like making up for the first hour and a half, which is first hour was mostly story, and then it just had half hour of all the dialogue and Ego's planet and the stuff going on with Yondu and that kind of thing. Whereas this one just is, man, it relentless, but then they find the right moments to put in the flashbacks, and so to try and pad it out a bit. But yeah.
So I was trying to think of my favorite line in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, in the trilogy, and there's a bunch of really good ones, but I think my favorite, the one that stands out to me the most, is when Peter says to Yondu, he's like, "You look like Mary Poppins." It's like, is he cool? And he's like, "Yeah, he's cool." That's one of my favorite lines.
Right.
Like, yeah, he's cool.
Mary Poppins, y'all.
I don't know why it resonates so much with me, but I get goosebumps. I get teared up sometimes. Like,
I love the bit in that same film when Kurt Russell at the end is in real panic mode, and he says, "Peter, like, you don't understand. If you do this, you'll just be like everybody else." And he says, "What's so wrong with that?" And then he just completely is lost for words on what to say in response to that as he just dissolves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one too. Yeah, there's so many good ones. But it's funny that it comes from the second movie. The second movie has really good lines.
Yeah.
There's some good lines in this movie. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything, so we'll just
in the second movie when I was rewatching it, I noticed things too, like in that big 3-dimensional mural thing when Ego's telling Peter his life history and how he went around the galaxy and mated with all these species, and I looked down there, I'm like, oh, there's him mating with a mantis, and apparently there was a deleted scene from part 2 where they were going to show that because they never did explain. They didn't really clarify in part 2 what the like was she just here? Is she part of it? Like, why is she here exactly? So it's like, that kind of thing. And I meant that. So this movie, it does feel a bit. I kind of like how this major character, the High Evolutionary, just sort of comes out of left field, and it's like, oh yeah, this guy, he's done this, that, blah blah blah, the other thing. I feel like
wow, just off his own little corner pocket of
little pocket over here,
little corner of the universe, doing his thing.
I admit, though, for a story which is so centered on Rocket and his backstory, I kind of wished that Thor would show up, because I find that his relationship with Thor, the bonding that they had, and their level of understanding for each other was so strong. A lot more than, like, Peter, he says Rocket's his best friend. He says that, but I've never really felt that they're best friends. It's like, okay, he's there, he's your friend, they're on the team, whatever. Right. But I really felt the relationship between Thor and Rocket in Infinity War and carrying over in Endgame. And so, I kind of, in a way, especially given what this movie does in its third act, when they're tying Rocket's whole backstory into all this evil shit that's been going on, I kind of wish that Thor was there.
It would have, it would have been
much
cool.
the same way that Rocket was there for Thor. If Thor could have been there for Rocket,
it would have been cool. I think the problem with having Thor there is just he's too powerful.
True.
He's just too powerful of God level. And that's what makes this movie interesting. I won't give away any spoilers, but the Adam Warlock character kind of, in a way, steps in that kind of role.
His powers kind of feel like Captain Marvel in a way.
They're very much, yeah.
Because you see that in the trailer that he just flies at like super speeds and is like the human rocket, basically, just crashing into things and blowing things. So he kind of seemed like that to me.
His powers are very similar.
Mm.
Anyways, on the whole, I really like this movie. I had a ton of fun with it, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew it was going to be good, right? You knew it was going to at least be good, but it exceeded my expectations. I wasn't actually prepared for the emotion that it brought out of me. Really, and I really liked the laughs. I knew those were going to be in there. And there was a lot of heart and a lot of cool action stuff, which I can take or leave, but it was done really well.
Yeah, it subverted my expectations too, as well as exceeded them in certain ways. In the way that the backstory plays out. Like I thought the movie was going to go one way with what the whole mission was going to be, and then it you're going this way.
Yeah, which was great. It was good. Yeah. It kept you guessing, but it wasn't formulaic in any way. Because it could have been. There's definitely
this is a wholly new type of story, and some aspects of the main plot felt almost like a video game quest. Like we got to go here to get the thing to do this thing, but because of the characters and how rich they are, it layered spliced in with those flashbacks, it works.
Yeah, I thought it worked too. I don't think we'll give ratings yet. We'll save all that kind of stuff for the spoiler discussion next week, or whenever we get to do it. But I want a little more time to marinate on kind of where I want to put it in the trilogy and how to rank those. But all in all, I definitely give this. I'll just say it's an A or an A+ for me. It's a return to form for Marvel, which. I don't know if they'll be able to keep up with since now James Gunn has departed, but I think Marvel as a whole needed this movie at this time.
Yeah, I give this one a B+. B+.
That's it's
which is what I gave the first two as well. I think all three of them have their own strengths, which is why I can't really find a ranking for them as easily. But this one for now is really fun, and because it's like who these people are, let's just jump right into it and take off.
And so it looks like it's going to make between 110 and 120. That's at least that was the feeling overnight. We'll see how what the legs are like, but I think there's going to be a lot of repeat viewing, so that might bump up a little bit. People saw Thursday and Friday and today. I think they're going to tell their friends and take their friends, over the weekend, because I plan on seeing this one more time this weekend. And I usually don't do that, especially for Guardians movies. I usually don't do repeat viewings in theater, but this one I had so much fun with. I'm actually looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, I'll be seeing it again actually on Sunday afternoon with a friend, and then possibly on Tuesday with a different friend.
Oh, cool. Yeah. See, exactly, and that's what gets these these numbers up is people taking having such a good experience that they want to take their friends back again and again. So really cool. Well, we're coming up on a 30-minute mark. Unless you have anything else that you want to touch on, I think we can probably call it.
I think it's really good. It's surprising how they keep, when they kept saying in the marketing that it's the final, the end, and yet in a way, while some of that's forced, it doesn't necessarily feel like it has to be the end on paper. It's like, okay, James Gunn's leaving. It's like, but the Marvel still owns the characters and their rights, so if they want to, they can make another one. And I think if this movie, given the word of mouth I've already been hearing from how people say it's like the best since Endgame, for me, it's the best since No Way Home, because I still think that was really good. I think that might give the people at Marvel a little bit of an inkling of what the fans want and what they would like to see, as opposed to whatever else it is they're doing. I'm not even sure what the next Marvel movie is. I know the Marvels is like in November. I don't know if there's one before that or not.
I think that's the next one.
Yeah,
Which I'm not looking forward to, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So we know that Dave Bautista and Zoe Saldana do not want to are pretty much done with the characters, but Chris Pratt says he would definitely come back to play Star-Lord. So that there's the doors open there. So and then the Guardians of the Galaxy, we know we're going to see more of whatever version of the Guardians team is. So that's interesting going forward too.
Yeah.
So yeah, they keep saying it's the final of this group, and I think they needed to make that case a little stronger. They didn't. I don't think they did themselves any favors, but they might have been,
Yeah, because you don't want to fall into the third act trap of saying that, oh, well, because it's the final, we'll just have to make it the final or the last of everything. It's like, you don't really need to do that, you can just make it a good movie.
Sure. But yeah, so yeah, I think we're going to see more. I think we're going to see more. Obviously, see more Guardians. I think we're going to see. I think we're going to see Peter Quill back. We may see a couple of the other original cast back at some time. But I do, I think we're going to get a new team. When that's going to happen, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be probably several years before we see the Guardians movie, unfortunately. I just don't know.
We only got 3 of these films in 9 years,
Yeah.
It does seem like such a long time ago that first one came out, and just surprising how good it was. And so, yeah.
All right. So I think that'll do it for us today. Kat, what do you think? You have anything coming up that you want to promote before we check out of here?
Not really. I'm not sure on the dates for when our next videos for our other show will happen.
Yeah, stay tuned to the channel, and we'll hit the little bell so you get notifications, and like, subscribe, do all the things, push the buttons, and I think that'll do it for us. So for Catherine, I'm Steve Foley. Have a great day, everybody.